Okay, welcome everyone. I want to invite you all to the 4th edition of the AM Book Club webinar series. I'll be your host, Andrew Mutua. Before we begin, I'd like to take a moment and introduce you to just some of the housekeeping rules to just help us ensure we have a smooth session. Please ensure you keep your audio on mute. If you have any questions during the presentations, please use the chat box that is available through the it should be showing probably on the left-hand side, or you can pull it up from the toggle options that are at the bottom of your screen. This session is being recorded and we'll later on publish it on our YouTube channel. If you happen to be at home, sometimes, we are in the age of working from home, and I'm sure sometimes you might have disruptions. If there's a way for you to be at a quiet room, please do take that option just to ensure we don't have any interruptions during the session. And with that, I now want to take a moment and let me share my screen. I hope you can all see my screen. I want to take a moment for those that might be joining this session for the first time, to just introduce them to the AM Book Club, and in particular this webinar series. So this club really is a spin-off from a blog that I normally run, where I review books that I read. It's basically a community of like-minded people like yourselves. And this community is basically premised on 3 key pillars. Number 1 is around books. So through this key pillar, we try to foster a reading culture. And the members of this community use books to continually develop and educate themselves. The other second pillar that is central to this community is mindset. We believe everything in regards to who we are emanates from our mind. And it's through developing our own minds that we can be able to nurture habits and mindsets that support us in various endeavors that we pursue. And thirdly, the third pillar is business. And it's through this pillar we learn of ways that we can be able to fashion our talent and expertise in a way that we can offer value for money. As we all know, we live in an economic planet. And it's important that we learn, aspects around marketing, sales, and others. And this community offers those venues to be able to nurture yourself around that. So we hope, and also what we do also is we set up this kind of webinar series where we invite various thought leaders to come and share with us some of their wisdom on various topics of interest. At the end of this session, I'll be sharing a feedback form whereby you'll have an opportunity to tell us what you liked, what you didn't like, and how ways we can be able to continually improve these sessions. I'll also be sharing with you a link whereby you can also register to join the AM Book Club. And with that, I wish now to also let you know a little bit about myself. So I'll take a minute. So as I've just mentioned, my name is Andrew Mutua. I'm the co-founder and executive director of Alternate Limited. Alternate Limited is an ICT firm that is focused on offering businesses, mostly mid to large size organizations, ways in which they can be able to digitize their business processes to enhance their productivity and efficiency, and essentially be able to do more with less. I have about 15 plus years experience within the ITC space, and I'm also a blogger, as I've just mentioned. I run this blog, and you can find me on andymutua.com. Those are my contacts. You find my company and my blog. And with that, the special session today is about the topic of 2020 clarity, which will be presented by our guest speaker, Colleta. So Colleta, as you all know, she is a career coach, a certified leadership coach, a trainer, and an author. Colleta, I met with Colleta, I think it must have been what, late 2015. And I think at the time you're probably transitioning, you're relocating back to Kenya. I met you through my uncle. And it is from there we got to know each other. And subsequently, I got to know what you do. And thereafter, I signed up for one of your programs, Success Teams, you call them what? Success Teams Training. And it was a very insightful training program or coaching sessions that I attended with Colleta. And I must say it was from those sessions that I got courage and clarity to take a very profound step in my life, which was, you know, making the transition from employment to going into business. So that was a very enlightening session for me, and one that made me make that leap. And it is also through some of the things that I've learned, and I continually make references to those insights to continually help me in various scenarios of my life. Colleta recently launched a second book, which is How to Design Your Career Game Plan. And I was privileged enough to attend the launch session, which was must be 2 weeks ago. And I think one of the key things that stood out for me, I think during that session or that launch presentation, was just seeing how, you know, your friends and family, you know, rallied all behind you. You know, you had your sort of firstborn son was the moderator. He just sort of emceed the session from start through to finish. We had your lastborn son, Jonathan, you know, play, you know, serenade us with some new tunes, and that was brilliant. You know, I really liked that. And of course, your husband, David Senior, was right behind there cheering you guys on. So it was amazing seeing all that. And I saw a lot of people in the chat box, you know, saying Team Macharia, Team Macharia. So no doubt it was Team Macharia on full display for the whole world to see. And that was quite brilliant. And really, Colleta, I must say that was a great launch. I'll be reading more. I got it autographed, and got a couple of surprises with the book when it got delivered to me. And I would encourage everyone to get themselves a copy. I'm sure you'll be telling us more about it. And with that, I wish now to welcome Colleta to take us through this session, the 2020 Clarity. Karibu sana, Colleta.
Thank you very much, Andrew. I am very, very honored to be here this evening. Good evening, everyone, from wherever you are joining us from. I know we have people from all over Kenya, Uganda. So I am really, really thrilled to be here. And it's so nice to hear you, Andrew, talk about your experience at Success Teams and how it catapulted you to get into business. And I do remember those days, and you know, your keenness in the Success Teams, and you know, so bravo. I can see you're still going strong. And so without further ado, I would like to start my presentation. I do have a PowerPoint. I hope I can share my screen, Andrew.
Yes, you should be able to. I've set you as a co-host.
Yes, yes. Okay. So do you see my screen?
Yes. Good stuff.
Fantastic. Okay. Sorry, good people, and thank you very much for your patience. So here we are. Welcome once again. Oh, why is it racing so fast? Okay, so karibuni sana. I would like to start by just introducing Clarity 2020. Clarity 2020 is actually an epiphany that came to me as I was working through my preparation, not just for this session, but for this season that we find ourselves in, that we commonly refer to as the COVID-19 season. And just in one of my reflections, I was thinking, how am I prepared for this season that we are in, to face it, to make the best of it? And I started working through different experiences that I have gone through. And as I was thinking about them, the different multiple relocations, the situation of finding myself in, from one country to another, and each time having to always start afresh with my career. Like Andrew, you mentioned that when we met, I had just come from Ethiopia and with my family, and we were settling back to Kenya and trying, for me, trying to find my way, my space around Nairobi, Kenya. And it had its own ups and downs. You think that, well, I'm going home, and so it should be all right. There should be no much in terms of adjustment, but then you get a shock when you actually get into reverse culture shock when you get home. And so just going through these experiences, I can say somewhat taught me a few things, and I'll be alluding to that a lot in today's conversation. And the first place that I would like to begin is in framing the conversation. And looking at what we have on the screen, what do you see? Perhaps you could type on the chat and share that image. What does it look like to you? What's happening with it? Any ideas coming up? Andrew, perhaps if you can look at the chat and tell us any ideas that are coming up.
Yes, I can see David has just shared the two-sided car.
Mm-hmm.
Stephanie mentions it's a car with no directions.
Uh-huh.
Elizabeth says cars mashed together, go in different directions.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, more are coming. From my perspective, what I saw, it looks a bit distorted. I can't make head or tail. Is it the front? Am I looking at the side?
Mm-hmm.
I see the headlights are on the side. The grill is on the front, which is okay, or the tires just look.
Yeah. I mean, is it coming or is it going? It's just a whole distortion. And thank you for for that feedback. And interestingly, somebody said if 2020 was a car, this is probably what it would look like. Something you can't quite tell where it's going or whether it's even going or coming, which direction it's facing. And on a global level, at country level, organizational level, and perhaps even at a personal level, you may have gotten to a point where you wondered, hey, what does this year look like? It started off all right. We thought, yes, it's the year of 2020 vision, and we were looking forward to doing great things. And then COVID-19 came and just distorted things and disrupted the way we do things, the way we think, the way we live, the way we work, the way we learn. And now here we are still, trying to make sense. The other day, the president announced that the partial lockdown and the cessation of movement in some of the counties that had been closed up, it's open now, and people are wondering, so should I travel? Should I stay? What's happening? And so yeah, it's at that stage. And just with that in mind, I would just like to get a sense from you who are participating here and look at the images that I will put on the screen shortly and tell me, which one of those has either it resonates with you now or it has resonated at some point in the last few months. We have a fish out of water there. We have an uprooted plant. And we have a plane in foggy weather on the runway. And then we have another plane that's airborne. And I will leave that to your interpretation. And just share again on the chat, which of those images do you feel like you can identify with, or if you were to use that as a metaphor, as something you're feeling or you have felt in the last few weeks or months. Let's see on the chat what comes up for you.
So Christine says a plane in foggy weather. The same with Elizabeth. Kezia also talks of the same. David says it's an airborne plane. Him is taking off.
Fantastic, yeah.
Sisi also says now, plane in the air.
Okay. Fantastic. So, as you think about this, plane in foggy weather, plane in the air, what is it that makes you feel that way? You can share that on the chat if you feel free to do so, or you can use it just as your own reflection that what do you think is causing those feelings and those thoughts. And moving forward, I would like to frame the conversation from what we just shared about the distorted image of the car, and now the images of the plane, whether it's if it's flying for you, probably you feel like you are soaring, and that's really fantastic that it's not all doom and gloom. There are people who are actually thriving during this time. Their lives are going on and they are making progress, they are making strides. And there are those who kind of feel somewhat, well, yeah, I'm kind of waiting. Maybe I'm in the air, but I'm in a holding pattern. I'm still circling, waiting for the clear signal to start descending and land. Or, maybe I'm a plant that's been uprooted from my natural surroundings and my natural area of growth. So I would like us to shift gears a little bit and look at just a way of framing this conversation so that we look at those experiences in the light of this quote from Soren Kierkegaard. And I don't know if that's the way you pronounce those names. If there's any Danish person in the audience, you can tell us if you say Soren Kierkegaard or whichever way you say it. So this gentleman, who was a writer, philosopher, and theologian, said that, not in these exact words, but I've paraphrased it, we live life forwards, but we understand it backwards. And that, I take it to mean that it's in looking back at experiences and at things that have happened, things that we have lived through, things that we have witnessed, things that we have passed through, and trying to connect the dots, that we learn and we make sense of what it was that was happening, that we look at ourselves and see how far we have come, that we look at ourselves and see how we can take lessons into the future. And so if you were to think through certain experiences that you've gone through, positive or negative, what did you learn from those experiences? What did they bring out in you? What did they teach you? And as you think about those experiences, it's like taking your own personal frame, taking an experience and framing it. So that's from the past, that's connecting the dots. It was, I think, Steve Jobs that says that you cannot connect the dots going forward, you can only connect the dots going backwards, all right? So holding that thought and thinking through that experience, because unfortunately, we don't have like a lot of time to work through this reflection to the end, but I'm just throwing these thoughts so that now in your own time, you can go and think about them, all right? Here is a picture of a frame. And if you were to move forward to next year this time, 2021, July 8th, and look back on the year 2020, what would be framed there? If 2020 was a memory, or if you were to put your experiences in that frame, what would it say? What would it show? What would you like it to show and to say? And not just for you, but even for the world. If you have children, if you have friends, if you have people you lead, what is it that they would be seeing in that frame of 2020 that you have carried into 2021? And I would like to offer here that whatever it is that you put in that frame will very much depend on the lenses that you are wearing right now as you look at your year, from January, February to where we are right now. And then even at the end of the year, as you look back, whatever lenses that you will be wearing will determine the images that you capture and put in that frame. And so in framing this conversation, I would like for us to think about the lenses that are not clouded. You know, for some of us who wear glasses, when you wear that mask and you breathe and the, you know, the breath gets into your glasses, you find that it clouds your vision and you have to take out your glasses and clean them. So this exercise we are doing is that exercise of cleaning those lenses so that we are able to see clearly, so that the frame that we form is going to be one that we are happy with. It's going to be one that is an epic finish. As Robin Sharma said, starting strong is good, finishing strong is epic. And so for us to finish strong, we want to wear those lenses of clarity. And so having framed that conversation, or rather having looked at the way we want to frame this conversation, let's now go and introduce clarity. I am taking it for granted that we don't need to define clarity because we know what it is. You know, when things are clear, they are clear. And we can see clearly, or we can think clearly. And so in thinking about clarity, the first thought that I want to bring to you is the word challenge. Challenging assumption, challenging beliefs, challenging perhaps things that you have thought should happen a certain way, and starting to frame them in a different way, in the way that you want, in the way that your innovation, your creativity, your imagination allows you to frame them so that you are not stuck. And I'll give an example. Yesterday, or was it the day before, we saw, you know, one of the prominent people telling us that the academic year 2020 is lost. We have lost this year. There are not going to be any exam for, you know, the students who take local exams. And so everything is pushed to next year, starting January. And that's one frame. And maybe when you really think about it, yes, in terms of the academics, the things that should have been done, perhaps we can say, yes, the year is lost. However, if we stay looking at it as a loss, are we really going to find ourselves looking at any gains that could result from this? Can any gains result from this? If academic learning is not happening, does it mean that learning is not happening at all? What opportunity has that freed up for children to learn different things that are not classroom-based and to build themselves and to build their skills in different ways? And so we can look at it as we have lost it and stick there, or we can look at it as, well, that door has been closed, but it has paved way for another door to be open. And then allowing ourselves to take a step further and challenge ourselves to find that door so that we can walk through it and enlighten ourselves and grow ourselves. And so challenging assumptions, challenging even things that might look like they make sense, so that we can up our game in terms of our creativity, in terms of our imagination, and in terms of our innovation to move forward. And I talked about our years in different countries as a family. One of the things that I remember very well was being in an office that I was employed in, and somebody coming in who was also a foreigner, and she came in because she needed some sort of support. And she found me there, and we were chatting, and she said, you seem like a foreigner, you're not from this country. And I said, yes, I am a foreigner. And she said, but I've been told that it's impossible to get a job when you are a foreigner and an accompanying spouse. And I said, yeah, I've been told the same thing, but that did not stop me from going ahead and looking for a job. And here I am. And I'd also been told that it was very difficult to get a work permit. But you see, if you are not willing to challenge some of these things and just go by what people tell you, then you might find yourself locking yourself out of opportunities and out of good things. Another thing that we challenge is, Andrew, you talked about our sons stepping in and supporting me during this launch. And I was chatting with Jonathan, the musician, and I said, it just occurred to me, I've never heard him say, when I grow up, I'm going to be a musician. What he says is, I am a musician, and here is where you can find my music. So who tells us that we have to wait until we grow up so that we can do stuff? Challenge assumptions, challenge conventional stuff, and see how you can catapult yourself. And that moves me to the next point of L. Learn as much as you can about your new space. If you have found yourself catapulted into a space that is unfamiliar to you, it's an opportunity to learn, and learning is continuous in this day and age. Learning the culture, learning the different things that are needed, or learning about the different challenges that occur there, so that you can put yourself in a position to be a solution provider. So learning as much as you can, and also learning to hold space for yourself. And I do know that holding space, is a term that is used by professional psychologists in talking about creating that safe space. But sometimes we fail to hold space for ourselves. We get very impatient, we get very judgy about our probably inability to move forward or to do things. Hold space for yourself. Be kind to yourself. Learn to really just listen and interrogate your thoughts and your feelings. And if you find yourself maybe at a place of resistance, it's a good thing to just take a step and ask, why am I resisting? Why am I feeling this way? What is causing A, B, C, D? And that way you learn to be supportive of yourself and the space that you find yourself in. And the third thing in this finding clarity is accepting that there are just simply things that you will not be able to control and you cannot control. And that there is a hand that is in charge of things, and it's possibly not your hand. So accepting the things that you can influence and the things that you can do nothing about is very, very important, because lamenting over them, lamenting over spilled milk will not really move you forward. Just clean up the milk and move ahead. And Stephen Covey talks about circle of concern and circle of influence. So the things that you are concerned about but you can do nothing about, they are in the circle of concern. Leave them to the higher power that can sort them out. The things that you can do something about, move them to the circle of influence. And it's always important to ensure that your circle of concern is not bigger than your circle of influence, because it means then that you're carrying burdens and you are carrying things and you are using your mind space for things that really you cannot influence or you cannot do anything about. So accepting that and responding in the proper way, which is now the next thing, the fourth thing about clarity, accepting and responding, moving things to the circle of influence, and then finding what you need to do so that you can work on those things, whether it's a decision that you need to make, whether it's a step of action that you need to take, whether it is support that you need to seek. You help yourself by understanding the right response to bring into that situation. The fifth thing is to invest in the tools that will support you to move forward. And I like that, Andrew, you alluded to, investing your time and your money into success teams so that you could move into another level of occupation and engagement, and that is to the level of business. So in challenging your assumptions, in learning as much as you can about situations and about the new space that you find yourself in accepting and in the response that you make, you will be called upon to make an investment. Whether that investment is in terms of time and money and other things, you really need to look at it and ask yourself, what am I being called to invest here? So that, again, you are not being stingy and blocking your own development and your own move forward. So is it an investment in professional health? Is it an investment in learning new skills and learning new things? It's really now for you to reflect and offer the right response to yourself. The other thing is to team up with like-minded people so that you support one another to move forward. There is that saying that we have, that if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Yeah.
So teaming up with like-minded people is going to help you to move in the right direction. If you team up with complainers, guess what is going to happen? And finally, yearn for vertical development. And as I say yearn for vertical development, I am assuming that you have taken care of your horizontal development needs here. And so this is something I was very excited to learn about, horizontal and vertical development. Now, horizontal development is really the maintenance stuff where you develop yourself to perform at the current level. When you take your car for service, for example, you are, topping up the oil or topping up the fuel and stuff like that. You are maintaining it so that it can perform at its optimum level. And even for yourself, when you do personal development, professional development, there is that level where you are developing yourself to continue functioning optimally where you are. But when it comes to vertical development, it's increasing your capacity to do more. And according to the Center for Creative Leadership, there are 3 ingredients for that to happen, for the vertical development to happen. And one of them is what they call heat, being in a heat situation, like fire, which now means facing complex situations that disrupt your habitual way of thinking. The situation has come, it has kind of thrown you and changed what you knew and how you have been doing things and how you have been thinking, and you find yourself now having to sort of start thinking in new ways. So that's one ingredient for vertical development. And the other one is colliding perspectives, where you find yourself meeting with people who bring in different ways of thinking, different ways of doing things, and you are exposed to these worldviews that probably you are not familiar with. And the third one is that elevated situation where now you get into the space where someone helps you. It could be a coach, it could be through training, it could be through whatever, where now you come and grow into those perspectives, those higher perspectives, so that you grow vertically. And so clarity, challenge assumptions, challenge common beliefs, challenge things that limit you. Learn as much as you can about the situation and about the space that you are in. Accept that there are some things that you cannot change, and respond by recognizing those that you can influence and put them in your circle of influence and start to work on them. Invest what it calls for, that particular, whatever your response tells you. If you need to invest in more education, if you need to invest in more tools, be willing and ready to invest. Team up with like-minded people and yearn for vertical development. And there, ladies and gentlemen, is the clarity that I am talking about to help us frame and to give us the clear lens to look at 2020 in a way that we can work towards an epic finish. And so, going forward, what then do we do? What does that mean for us? I like that this is a book club, and I like that I am talking to lovers of books and lovers of reading, because in that reading, you have experienced different worldviews, you have experienced different kinds of content. And now, here you are in a situation where I am challenging you to frame the conversation and to look at things from this lens of clarity to work towards an epic finish. Now, the process of writing a book is a grueling process. It starts with a draft. Well, it starts with a thought. And with time, that thought is turned into a draft. And then that draft is worked on. It is reviewed. It is challenged. It is marked, highlighted, cut up, and made in such a way that by the time it becomes a finished product, if it could talk and tell a story, it would tell you that at some point it has cried and it has had to suffer mutilation and treatment that it probably thought was not very fair. And yet, if all that did not happen, you would not find yourself with a product like this. So think about all the books you have read and imagine the process they have gone through. And think about the book that you are, because people are going to read you, whether it's your children, whether it's your people that follow you, people that you lead, whether it is your colleagues and your peers, they're going to read you. What are they going to see? What is that process that you have gone through that has brought out the you that people can actually read and gather insights and gather nuggets and gather inspiration to move forward? And then think about you being the author of that book. What is it going to contain? So we have one there that you can see it has, pictures and, a bit of writing. And then there is this one here that probably has a lot of text. The choice is yours. Let your imagination run. Think about what it is that you need to challenge and what it is that you need to learn, what you need to accept and all that, so that you can create that product that is epic, that you will frame for yourself and look back at it and say, that was 2020 for me. It is an epic finish. And for me, all that experience, it was 11 years in total in different countries, learning different things, each time, having to learn stuff afresh, each time feeling like, oh my gosh, do we have to start all over again? And, I can say that by the grace of God, this came out, and a lot more that's not on here. And I would say it was an epic finish, but when it started, I did not know that it was going to finish that way. At some point, it looked really, really difficult. It looks like, where is the next plane that I can just catch and go back home, right? But because of perseverance and because of that vertical development, my capacity was increased. And I think if I had not gone through those situations, I probably, would not be having something like this to speak of. And so there is the call for you to really think through. I like this quote by KRS-One. He is a hip hop artist and philosopher and a lecturer. I don't know whether by now he has become a professor. And, he challenges people and he tells them educate yourself and expand your worldview. For me, that's a depiction of vertical development. And he also says, visualize wealth and put yourself in the picture. And so my call to you is, what are you going to visualize? And what are you going to put in that picture alongside yourself as the one who owns it, so that you have an epic finish? And so, ladies and gentlemen, that is where I will end my presentation. And I would like to open to hear from you what aha moments have come to you as you were listening, and any questions that perhaps you may have. If we can answer them, we will do our best to answer them. And any other comment or feedback that you can give us. Thank you very much. And thank you, Andrew, for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Colleta. I didn't know that clarity was an acronym. So
that's it.
That was a pleasant surprise. Yeah.
Yeah, we just have a special relationship.
So at this point, I think I want to open it up for question and answers. I can open up, if you wish to speak, just unmute yourself, or you can go ahead and type your questions on the chat box. And Colleta will address each of those questions.
Alongside the questions, I would also be very happy to hear if any new awareness came to you, besides that the clarity is an acronym.
Well, Colleta, I mean, there's something that stood out for me as I was listening through the 2020 clarity, and there was that aspect of learning about your new space. How do you move forward, particularly if you're in a very, and I mean, I think this season that we are in, COVID, has probably pushed all of us into a very new environment that has really challenged our assumptions, as you've mentioned. People used to think that when you talk of working, you have to go to this physical space, which is an office, and it has to be done between 8 and 5. And there are a host of other things, the routines and structures that were, in a sense, imposed on us are now just being shattered, and you're just being told, you need to produce while still from a distance, or either in your home or whatever location that you happen to be in, probably not seeing your colleagues physically, and a host of other things. This truly has been quite a challenging time. How do you move forward if probably the tool set that you have seemed a bit insufficient to help you learn some new tool sets? Is there a point that you let go of certain things, or how does someone really prepare themselves to address an area or rather a situation that is very, can be a bit daunting, confusing, it's very new.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a good question, Andrew, and I am sure that people in the audience would have ideas to contribute to this, and so I would like to welcome that as well. But I want to, just tell you a little bit about my father. I like to tell this story because, for me, it was mind-boggling when I learned that in his old age, he had taught himself how to use his left hand. He must have been, late 50s or early 60s when that happened. And, at some point, his right hand just, it would shake uncontrollably. And so he couldn't use it to write or to eat. And because he needed to do those things, and writing is something he enjoyed, filling in crossword puzzles especially, he took the time and he taught himself how to write with his left hand. That was new territory for him, all right? And propelled by the need to be independent and to support himself, he went ahead and did that. Now, what did he have to challenge? I don't know whether he ever thought, well, can you really teach an old dog new tricks? Or whether he thought, I'm an old man, is it even possible? I've never been left-handed. I have no idea. All I know is that he could write very well with his left hand. And he told me, I taught myself how to do that because I realized that I couldn't do it anymore with my right hand. And so when you find yourself in a situation like that, you really do need to just be very realistic and say, okay, this is what I knew, this is what I have, it's not serving me. And if I am to move into this new space, then I do have to make a choice. I do have to move forward. And it's all about the acceptance bit, accepting that, yes, I do need to shed this old thinking and move forward in a growth mindset, and then invest the time and the resources necessary to learn, whether it's how to use technology, whether it's, I don't know what else people are having to learn right now. I have had to learn quite a few things about technology to function well in this time and age. And I thank God that I had quite a bit of preparation from my schooling, because I did my quite a bit of my schooling online way before. So I think for everyone, you would need to just take stock and examine and ask yourself what is needed.
Thank you very much. I see David Muteti has unmuted himself. David, do you have any comment or question?
Right now, I don't have any comment because I couldn't make it for the whole session, but I've learned a lot, so thanks a lot.
Welcome. Thank you, David.
Sante.
Can I make a comment?
Yes. Go ahead, Christine.
Hello? Yes, there is an acronym, Y, W-H-Y. There is somebody who once said that for you to move forward in difficult circumstances, you need to have a big Y. The Y stands for what hurts you. So like I'm thinking about the case of your dad. Having not to write was difficult. It's like he had to write. So like right now, okay, like I remember this COVID season, in the first week or two, I just felt completely lost. Then work challenges came in and other things, and okay, it's like it reached a point I had to move forward. I don't know whether I've not completely moved forward, but okay, I'm finding my way. So if something hurts you big significantly, you find a solution.
Yes.
So like right now, okay, having to think about, like let me give you an experience, something I'm still thinking about very fresh. I'm a lecturer in one of the public universities, and today we had a meeting, and what somebody brought up about this issue of schools being closed for until next year. They said basically, yeah, if the people don't qualify, if we don't have a KCPE and KCSE, it means there are no people transitioning to universities. So we are basically going to lose a whole year. And what is the significance of this? It was like we were being challenged. Now we need to think about new ways of earning, because our salaries will not be there. Our money, what we earn is generated partly from what the students pay. So, okay, so we were basically just challenged that think about it, we'll hold a meeting at a later date, and they are open to whatever suggestions people have. And then I found myself thinking there are many teachers who will become jobless, especially those people working with the private schools and so on, private universities, because even the private universities to a large extent are relying on the people who are finishing KCSE and so on. So okay, there are challenges, but as you say, you need to think about, you need to look on the opposite side, because are you going to get stuck where you are, or are you going to choose to move forward? So first of all, you need to sit down and and have a big why you need to move forward, and okay, why stands for what hurts you. So if it hurts you enough, you'll find a solution. And then start from there and move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Christine. I like that. What hurts you? Yeah. Fantastic.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you, Christine, for that. Finding your big why.
And also not focusing too much on the closed door, because some doors will close. I mean, in your life, you know, whether it's because of COVID or anything else, some doors will inevitably close. However, some will open. And so if your attention is focused on the closed one, how will you ever know which door is open?
That reminds me of that. Is it a Chinese proverb that says in every problem or in every challenge, there is what? There's an opportunity. So I think it's just people to have, as you say, that growth mindset that opens you up to the possibilities. But a closed mindset will only see this is done and set, and that's how it is. Yeah.
That's true.
Every cloud has a silver lining.
There's a silver lining, yes.
Way of putting it.
Yes.
Napoleon Hill says, I think in every adversity there's an opportunity in there. So yeah, it's all this saying.
Yeah, fantastic.
Great.
Yeah.
So we just hit 7:32. I've just shared a feedback form. Please take a moment. It will probably take you not more than 2 or 3 minutes to fill that form, and share with us what did you like about the session. Are there certain areas that you liked or you didn't like, and which areas of improvement can you propose to us? I've also shared a link whereby you can register to be a member of the AM Book Club, and we'll be able to share these goodies with you. Colleta, there is a question from David, whether the slides will be can be shared to the participants.
Well, you mentioned that you are recording, right?
Yeah, and I think actually a recording will probably be the best thing. So David, I think we'll share with you the final recording of this session, and you'll have the slides already embedded in that. So I'll share with you the video, which will have everything. So
also interested in the video?
Yes, it will come with the video.
Okay. I'm interested in the recording.
Otherwise, if there's no other question, comment, Colleta, is there any way people can reach out to you? I know you provide certain services. Is there anything you can tell us? You've got a new book. How can people get hold of that?
Yes, this new book here is available at Raffle Books. I will send the link just now, Raffle Books. You can buy it there, 1,000 shillings. It's also available on Amazon if you want to get your Kindle copy, or if you want to get it from Barnes & Noble, Scribd, and Apple, and like 1,000,001 platforms. You can access it there. And I would recommend that you actually get it, especially if you're at that space, you're wondering, okay, now, my job, Christine has talked about teachers and stuff like that. It's a wonderful time to start thinking through what's my game plan in this season. Because much as it was not written with COVID-19, in mind, it's actually an excellent resource for thinking through career transitions. And so I would encourage you to get it. And also you can reach me, you can connect with me on my website, www.coletamacharia.com. You can also connect with me via email, gameplan@coletamacharia.com. Let's talk, let's engage. Let me know how I may support you in your journey because I also offer career coaching services and training for those skills that Andrew, you're talking about, productivity, communication, interpersonal relationships, the so-called 21st century skills. They are going to come in very, very handy during this time. So yes, let's work on our personal and professional development.
Great. So that was quite a session, and I want to thank you very much, Colleta, for sharing your time for this and sharing your wisdom on this idea of Clarity 2020. And I appreciate all this. Thank you, everyone, for your time and participation. We look forward. We're going to have another great session, so look out for that. That will be next week on Wednesday, same time, and I'll be sharing with you the details of that through email or through other channels. So much appreciated. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you.